Hello and salamat datang. Welcome to a very special episode of Gardening Australia. It's raining, it's humid, it's feeling very tropical. We're in Indonesia.
That's right, Gardening Australia's first time overseas and my first time here.
But before we do anything else, I want to introduce you to our friend, local plant champion and storyteller, Sean Salim.
Welcome to Indonesia, a botanical wonderland with wild forests, inspiring gardens, and determined growers. Indonesia is diverse, and we love to share.
How lucky are we? We get to meet some of our nearest neighbours and explore their gardens too.
And as always, plants connect us all. Indonesia is just northwest of Australia, right on the equator. In fact, our two countries are so close, we share a maritime boundary. The country is made up of over 17,500 islands, making it the largest archipelago nation in the world.
Indonesia's geology is dramatic. It's in the Pacific Ring of Fire, a region known for volcanic activity. Its tropical climate and rich volcanic soil make it one of the most biodiverse places on the planet.
Indonesia has some of the biggest reserves of rainforest left on Earth, home to plants and animals found nowhere else. Indonesia also has more than 10% of all global flora, and many popular domestic plants have their wild origins here.
With such incredible natural diversity and a population of about 280 million potential gardeners, I think we better get started. Coming up on Gardening Australia's Indonesia special, we get lost in some inspiring home gardens. Meet a family of plant breeders looking to cultivate Indonesia's next big thing.
What are your thoughts?
And travel to the jungles of Sumatra to see some of the most amazing plants on Earth and meet the people working to protect them. Believe me when I say Jakarta is one of the most densely populated places on Earth. The region of Greater Jakarta is made up of a series of satellite cities that surround the main capital, and combined, it has a population of 30 million people. That's 5 million more than all of Australia. There are a lot of things that people need to live in a city this big, and one of them is green space. I'm visiting a parkland in South Jakarta called Tebet Eco Park. This has been a public park since the 1960s, but it's recently been completely transformed through a major renovation that's managed to honour some of the oldest trees in the city, renaturalise the river that runs through it, and create much needed space for people and wildlife. I'm going for a walk around with Anton Shura, the landscape architect who brought the park back to life. Anton, as a landscape architect, I get really excited when I see urban green space like this, and looking around with so many people, it's a success.
Yes, it is. It's very rare for us to have this kind of park in Jakarta, in terms of size, in terms of greenery, because living in Jakarta is about spending a lot of time in traffic, shopping mall, and everything has to be paid for. And this park is free. So it really accommodates what is the people wish to live in the big city of Jakarta.
Itu selain nyaman, terus aku bisa juga dengar beberapa kicauan burung, terus lihat yang hijau-hijau. Itu selain ngasih aku inspirasi, juga ngasih aku kebebasan untuk di Jakarta ini.
Bagus sih, aku interesting banget ya, sama apalagi sama yang playground anak-anaknya juga Cukup bersih, terus juga sepi, luas banget, hijau banget, pohon-pohonnya tinggi-tinggi juga. Jadi sih seru banget sih kalau apalagi bawa keluarga, bawa anak ya.
There was an existing waterway running through the old park, and before the remodel, it had become a serious flooding problem, with polluted water often spreading to neighbouring houses. Instead of trying to divert the water away from the park, Anton's design captures and slows water flow and increases the area's flood resilience.
Like this, you don't feel that this is a drain.
No.
It's a part of the landscape.
Yeah. The concrete sides of the original waterway were smashed up and the rubble has been used in mesh gabion cages.
They have a function to contain for the slope stabilization.
The new riverbank is now permeable, stabilising the bank while also slowing the flow of water. And of course, plants are important too, adding stability, water purification and habitat. The 1,500 or so trees in the original city forest were only a few decades old, which still made them some of the oldest and most valuable in Jakarta. So a lot of care was taken to incorporate them into the new garden design.
For example, at the pavilions, there's 3 trees that we protected. We just create a hole and the building is giving way to the nature. And some trees that affected by the development, we will transplant them to the other place. In overall, we want to protect the trees as much as possible.
It's pretty impossible to miss these beautiful rainbow gums. It's a species that feels very familiar, but also starkly different. In certain seasons, the bark of the rainbow gum can be so colourful that it almost doesn't seem real. It's one of the few species of eucalypts that isn't an Australian native, growing in Indonesia, Papua New Guinea and the Philippines. It's really nice to see how you've repeated the colours from the rainbow gums in different elements and features throughout the park.
Yes. There are over 100 eucalyptus trees over here, and we thought that this is the great assets or the features of the park itself. So somehow we want to relate it with our architectural design. So we want to pick the color of this orange color and brownish color into the bridge, so that when people walk over the bridge, it feels blends seamlessly with the surrounding. So there's a correlation between the architecture and the nature as well.
The striking Infinity Bridge connects and unites what used to be 2 separate parks, separated by a busy road.
The idea is we want people to walk from one park to the other park without efforts, right?
It's gently graded to make it easier to use, but also winds up quite high, so you get sweeping views of the park and a chance to appreciate the treetops. We're here midweek and there's lots and lots of people here. How's it been used?
When the park was open, it attracted around 15,000 people on average, and there was one weekend 60,000 people come in a day. So this shows how the people of Jakarta really demanding a good public parks.
In Jakarta, not many parks like this, yeah. Children can play freely. I mean, this is perfect for family.
Oh, this place is an amazing place for kids to have fun. I would want to explore the entire place all by myself.
When we see people coming with happy face, smiling, a lot of kids, and it is the greatest happiness that we can take as a designer.
Sean, your passion for plants began with indoor plants, yeah?
Yes, it did. I actually learned everything about plants from being indoors because we were locked down during COVID and there was nothing else we could do. I was a beginner at the time myself.
So you came in cold?
Yes, absolutely. I learned everything from scratch and I decided to build a channel where I can share everything that I've learned with a wider audience. Hi guys, my name is Sean. I'm a houseplant enthusiast from Jakarta, Indonesia. So we're going to be looking at cycads first, and then some tropical foliage, a lot of aeroids. It's a highly requested episode, and there's going to be a lot of really interesting rare Sansevieria I bet you've never seen before.
Filming in-depth tours of some of the best gardens in Indonesia has become Sean's full-time job. One of the most popular videos he's made tours a high-end garden where the homeowner has wrapped their home in a lush forestscape. It's in a suburb not far from here, in the outskirts of Jakarta, so we thought we'd stop for a quick look. Welcome to Mr. Chandra's garden.
My garden really changed my life because at night I can listen to the cricket, to the frogs, and some other insect, and for me it's very beautiful. Not much trees and everything around here. You know, mostly housing. In Jakarta, it's very hard to have empty land and then to plant something here. It's very hard now. Yeah. So I was very fortunate, you know, in living in Jakarta, having this much land, you know, so it's kind of rare. I'm trying to make like ecosystem for my house, you know, so the birds, the animal will come and they feel comfortable. And the most important is the dragonflies. The dragonfly is one of the indicators that you have a very pristine and healthy environment. My dream is this like a small ecosystem in the city and hopefully inspire other people to build something even a smaller scale. It doesn't matter actually if you have like, let's say 4 square meters or 10 square meters of land because you're contributing oxygen, even a little bit. If many people will do it at the same time, it may be the change. So some people maybe they don't like to be copied, but I like, please copy my place. I want to have a world is greener when I'm still alive.
Sean, what music is this?
Well, Tammy, I'm taking us to a master hybridizer, and he's well known for his aglaonemas. It is a genus so popular here that it has its own theme song.
A plant with a theme song. I'm into it.
Mr. Greg Kambali, or Pak Greg, is very well known in plant circles all over the world as a producer of some of our most beloved cultivars. But of all the many plants Pak Greg works with, aglaonemas are the heroes in this greenhouse. These are all the cultivars he's created and sold over the years.
And what's the latest hybrid?
That's Jayanti. It was released last year in June.
Pak Greg's daughter Mia is also a plant breeder. She has her own nursery in Bali, but she learned the ropes here with her dad. Mia's been kind enough to fly back from Bali to help show us around today. So while Greg shows me some of the spectacular aglaonema hybrids, Mia's taking Sean behind the scenes to see how it's all done.
During my prime, I intend to hybridize as much as possible.
That's a good mission to have.
A good mission, yeah.
So what is a hybrid?
A hybrid is the product of a hybridization. A hybridization is combining different traits of the male parent and the female parent. We use a paintbrush. It's good to take the pollen, which is very soft. It looks like powder. And we brush on the pistils of the inflorescence.
And once you have successfully pollinated it, what happens next?
The seed development takes 6 to 8 months, and then, yes, that long. And then after that, we sow the seeds. the seeds will germinate, and then we can see one leaf will emerge. And if we want to know whether it's going to be beautiful or not, we need to wait until it gets mature.
So I can say that basically for a hybridizer, the effort doesn't end just with pollination. And when you set seed, you really literally have thousands of pots of babies, and you don't know what they're going to look like.
Yeah.
Most of them will not look your
Beautiful.
desired.
Yeah.
And then you have to really keep an eye and keep alive the
Yeah.
one that looks amazing, and that's what you want to selectively breed and
Yes.
bring to the market.
That's true. It takes a long time, so that's why you need a long life to do this, to do hybridization.
Meanwhile, I'm in Aglaonema heaven, admiring the successes of Greg's many decades of work. Most aglaonemas that I've seen being grown in Australia are in shades of green. But here, things are a lot more vivid.
Aglaonema is the most popular house plants in Indonesia, but people are not that interested at all to the old ones because they just look dull, green, because green is just a common color throughout the tropics. So they want something which are really different, which are really more colorful.
And is it particularly red that they're after?
Yes, because red refers to bravery and also to, say, kind of luck too, to some extent.
Greg has many hybrids in shades of pink and red, and that colour is all thanks to the genetics of just one Indonesian species, Aglaonema rotundum, from the island of Sumatra.
Aglaonema rotundum is the most important aglaonema in all the breeding work for coloration. So actually, rotundum is function like salt in the kitchen. Without rotundum, basically all the dishes taste bland, you see. So as you can see, rotundum alone is very variable. So every single individual may actually impart different coloration to the hybrids. So the good thing is always try and try. If you don't try, you don't know.
Here we've kept the labels of things that didn't work out, our failures. My father in his lifetime has made more than 10,000 failures, and I've already made more than 1,000 failures, and I intend to make more failures before I achieve success.
So when you see the final end product there's actually a lot of tears, sweat, and blood put into creating these wonderful products.
That's true. A failure is not the end of the world. We keep doing what we are doing, and we don't give up.
Nice.
Before we head off, Puck Greg has invited us to have a quick look at his huge experimental garden. And when you see it, you'll know why we didn't have to be asked twice.
This place is more like a personal jungle than a garden. It's packed with so many interesting plants that it's hard to take more than a few steps without stopping to admire something new.
This plant called out to me. It's a Liquala matanensis from Borneo. It has beautiful fan-shaped leaves here, and it stays relatively compact. And of course, you see the patterning is really, really beautiful, especially if you shine light on it. I used to have one of this, but I killed it by underwatering. This plant does not want to dry out at all. It likes moist, acidic soil and bright shade.
Have a look at this plant. It's a variegated Thaumatophyllum hybrid. Look at the size of the leaves. It's magnificent. And just to be growing out here in full sun and absolutely loving it.
Greg's larger experiments happen here, outside the greenhouses. Over several decades, he's been tending to his long-term project of breeding salak, a palm with a sweet, firm fruit that's a very important food source for Southeast Asia.
These are the salak fruits that you might like to try.
Thank you.
So the salak fruit is from the genus Salaka. It's also commonly known as a snake fruit because the skin resembles a snake's skin. So you kind of peel it off from the sharp point on the top and make your way down.
Oh, they look like little bulbs in there.
Yeah.
So we just break it off?
We just break it off.
Yeah.
And you want to bite into one, and be careful, there's the seed inside.
What are your thoughts?
Oh, there's a bit of sourness to it, but it's sweet.
But actually, the fruit varies in terms of taste. Some taste much better than this, for sure.
Oh, I'd like to try. I mean, this is pretty
Still,
good.
it's already good, yeah.
And you've been breeding salak plants for a long time.
Yes, since 1986.
Wow. And what is your ultimate goal with them?
To produce, of course, a better quality fruit. And then eventually we try also to make them spineless. It's very important to make them spineless so they become less hazardous.
And are you there yet?
Yeah, I mean, approaching. Yeah, it takes time.
You're very ambitious, Pak Greg.
Yeah. We need to have ambitions. Without ambitions, no big projects could be realized.
You know what? I think I'm going to have that Agnonema song stuck in my head for the next few days.
Me too.
I'm in the South Tangerang neighbourhood of Greater Jakarta on my way to visit a passionate home gardener. And it doesn't matter where I am in the world, my garden alarm will go off, and I reckon I've seen enough. This is the place. Plants climb across every surface and peek out from every nook. A huge rambutan tree fills the front yard and spills onto the street, creating much appreciated shade and fruit for the house and neighbourhood. This is a beautiful walk.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Gardener Ida Amal planned and built this two-storey house with the garden at its centre. Oh, look at all the beard here.
This is my rooftop garden.
Oh, what an oasis up here. So many flowers. More Hoyas here. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I like them. I don't know where to look. Like, you've got so many different things, from the lilies to the orchids to the papaya. There's the familiar buzz of a stingless beehive, same as at my place. It just keeps going. And you've got a eucalyptus here.
I tried to plant
Everything.
everything, yes.
There's even some tulip bulbs that are so far from their desired climate that Ida has put them in the fridge to see if she can coax them into flowering. You are doing so much experimentation here in your garden.
Yes. I love every plant.
And, like many gardens, a project tends to spread its tendrils beyond the garden gate. Ida got permission to convert the public land next door into garden space. And it's going off. They're everywhere. There's butterflies everywhere. Like, just standing here, I've seen 6, 7.
This thing, hi!
Welcome.
Welcome.
We're all going to come and visit today and show off all of your good work. Wow. Ida has given butterflies a sanctuary in the suburbs by growing their very particular host plants.
This is Adenia. Adenia plant is host plant for Chitosia butterflies. This is the egg of Chitosia butterflies. And the caterpillar eat the leaf until they pupa. Chitosia just eat this plant.
That's it.
That's it. Not eat other plant.
Sharing plant knowledge and spreading the message of sustainability and gardening has always been a big part of Ida's journey. As an avid photographer and artist, Ida pairs her garden musings with beautiful imagery and shares it with a large and engaged online following.
Akan membangun satu microclimate dari microclimate yang kita bangun dari rumah kita masing-masing akan membangun satu microclimate yang akhirnya nanti akan mengurangi terjadinya global warming dan climate change. Itu message yang pengen saya sampaikan melalui social media. Gardening not just planting, but gardening is care about environment. How to cook product from garden, how to conserve butterflies. Ini panen. To educate people, it's my passion.
Still to come on Gardening Australia in Indonesia, we trek through Sumatran rainforests to find Indonesia's most iconic and stinky plants.
Ooh, this one looks sinister.
Explore the tropical collections of Southeast Asia's oldest botanical garden. And meet a young conservationist working to protect some of the world's most precious ecosystems.
Costa and I have headed to West Java, to the outskirts of Bandung, also known as the Garden City, which sounds promising. It's one of the best growing regions in Java, and we're here to visit one very particular road.
We've just turned onto it now. It's a 10-kilometre stretch of road with nothing but nurseries. It's known as Pusat Tanaman Hias Ciendeng, or Ciendeng Ornamental Plant Centre, and it's a horticultural hub with nurseries growing and selling plants of all kinds. Pelargoniums, hanging baskets.
They grow everything in the tropics.
I love the roof structure with the bamboo.
Here?
Yeah, look at these
the
topiary.
crowd-pruned
Yeah, conifers.
That's amazing.
It just keeps going.
And going and going. There's colour everywhere, from vivid bougainvillea to seas of perennials. There are literally thousands of hanging pots, even aquatic plants.
Through trees. It's getting dangerous. We're exiting the vehicle. Here we go.
Mangoes.
Yeah. We've stumbled on a whole section dedicated to fruit. There are the classics like citrus and berries, as well as lots that are making us dig deep into our plant memories. What's this one again? It sort of looks like a lychee when it's small and then like a kiwi when it's big.
Sapodilla.
Do you know the taste?
No, I don't. We'll have to give it a go. Have a look at the size of this mango.
Oh, get out.
It's huge.
Look at it. It's as big as my noggin. But it's interesting that we've got about 5 varieties at home to choose from. But over here in Indonesia, they've got more than 10.
Wow.
And you know what it's known as?
What's that?
Manga.
That's a cool name.
There's a lot of manga in one.
Oh, jackfruit.
Oh, yeah,
that's
look at that. Oh, pomegranate. Yeah, look at the pomegranates. A lot of flowers. Gonna go up?
Yeah, let's go up. The jambu.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
This fruit looks familiar. It's a lot like an Australian lily-pilly, except on a giant scale. This one is almost the size of a pear. We have about 50 species of Syzygium in Australia, but there are over 1,000 in the genus and many are grown in Indonesia. In Javanese, it's called jambu. It's great having them all clustered on one strip.
Yeah.
There really is a completely wild variety of plants here. I've never seen anything like it. For example, here, a towering stand of frangipanis. Apparently you can choose a tree, then get it dug up and delivered into your garden.
I feel like I'm in a frangipani forest. They're so gnarled and old.
And they've all been salvaged so that they can be rehomed. Imagine having a structure of this age to put as a centrepiece and build a garden around it.
It's definitely something you won't find in nurseries back home. Check out this guy.
Wow, that's quality home delivery.
How amazing is that? Like, what you can get on the back of a bike.
What an incredible place to visit. The energy here, I'm buzzing. And I actually heard that people take a 3-hour drive from Jakarta to come up here on the weekend and buy plants.
Well, I'd say that's totally worth it. I mean, if I lived here, I'd be up here every weekend just loading the van with more plants. And it's probably a good thing we can't take anything home. For our wallets, I mean.
Yeah, and customs too.
Indonesia is comprised of thousands of individual islands, and this geography has led to many unique and isolated habitats. These places have evolved their own distinct species with endemic flora that occurs nowhere else on Earth. We're heading to the large island of Sumatra to see some threatened plants that will absolutely knock your socks off. The region of Bengkulu in South Sumatra is blanketed in rainforest that gets thicker as you climb into the mountains. Holden is a local plant conservationist, and he's taking us to see one of Indonesia's most elusive and iconic plants, the Rafflesia arnoldi, the largest flower in the world. It can grow to be almost a metre wide and weigh over 6 kilos.
Jadi Rafflesia arnoldi ini ketika mulai muncul dari awal katakan sebesar kutil itu sampai mekar butuh waktu 2 tahun lebih. Kalau kondisi miring, karena dia di kemiringan, jadi cuma bertahan cuma 8 hari mekarnya. Tapi kalau kondisi letak bunga berdiri datar, itu 8 hari itu masih kelihatan segar dan bisa bertahan sampai 2 minggu.
With no roots, stem or leaves, Rafflesia arnoldi is a parasite that grows directly and exclusively from its host plant, this climbing woody vine, Tetrastigma leucostaphyllum. It's known as the corpse lily, and the central chamber is full of fly pollinators, attracted to its very unique smell.
Punya aroma tersendiri, yaitu aroma amis dara. Amis dara.
This forest is home to another species of rare and smelly plant, and Holden is taking us up further into the mountains to see some. This is his family's land, and over the last 26 years they've turned it into a conservation area to protect the botanical giant of the jungle, the Titan arum. At their peak, they can get over 3 meters tall and weigh over 70 kilos. This one was in full bloom a week or so ago, so while it's still a giant, it's now looking a little past its former glory. But Holden is meticulous with keeping records of these incredible plants. The Titan arum only flowers for 2 days every 4 years. It looks like one huge flower, but the tall spathe is actually lots of tiny flowers clustered together.
Jadi Amorphophallus titanum ini memang langka ya, yang jenis dilindungi endemik Sumatera. Aroma Amorphophallus ini memang sedikit menyengat ya, seperti bau ikan asin atau katakanlah seperti bangkai tikus aromanya.
In non-flowering years, it often grows into a tall, tree-like structure, which is actually just one huge leaf with lots of small leaflets. There are only about 1,000 Titan arums left in the wild. These plants rely on the ecosystems of Sumatran forests, which are under extreme pressure from land clearing for domestic and international industries like coffee, rubber and palm oil.
Hilangnya habitat ini. Karena di Bengkulu sendiri inilah yang dibangga-banggakan Amorphophallus titano, Rafflesia arnoldi. Sudah banyak yang terancam dan banyak yang punah.
Over decades, Hollerton has rescued dozens of these plants from areas threatened by land clearing and relocated them here for their protection.
Punya rasa ketakutan yang luar biasa akan nanti ini hilangnya, karena generasi yang akan datang mereka tidak akan tahu. Bahkan mungkin dunia pun tidak akan tahu kalau tidak ada yang sanggup melestarikan ini. Makanya dengan berat hati ya kami mengambil lahan ini, menjadikan lahan ini sebagai lahan konservasi. Segelintir orang yang mau berbuat untuk melestarikan ini.
Tammy, Sean and I are spending some time at the spectacular Bogor Botanical Garden. Look at the size of this place.
Oh my gosh.
It's 87 hectares, so we're going to split up to cover some ground.
All right, well, I'm heading this way.
Yes,
shall we?
That way.
All right, I'll see you later.
The city of Bogor is about an hour south of Jakarta. It's mountainous, it's warm, and it's wet. It seems to pour here at least once every day. So it's no wonder Bogor is nicknamed the Rainy City. This is the oldest botanic garden in all of Southeast Asia, and it's a UNESCO World Heritage listed site.
Some of the trees here are hundreds of years old, like these two absolute giants. That one is Euphorbia leprosula. It's native to Sumatra and was planted way back in 1816. This one is a huge Ficus albopilla. It's native to Java and was planted in 1866.
They're known as the couple trees because couples often pose for photos beneath them. And it's said that standing here will make your love last forever. Kebun Raya Bogor is a beautiful place to spend time, but it's also a place deeply rooted in science and conservation. I've been lucky to meet up with Professor Sri Rahayu, a research scientist who's been working to discover Indonesia's plant secrets for decades.
I do research especially on Hoya plants, yeah. I work here since 1994. It's 29 years ago. Long time, I think. Nobody knew about Hoya. And then I see the potential as new ornamental plants with the beauty of the flowers and leaf arrangements. So I asked the director, I would like to do research on the domestication of Indonesian Hoya.
Professor Sri's work has taken her on adventurous missions to many, if not most, of Indonesia's forests, looking for rare, endangered or undescribed plants.
In Sumatra, Kalimantan, Sulawesi, Lombok, and Java, and so on, Bali. Yeah. I'm especially looking for Hoya, but not only Hoya. And it's about 20 new Hoya species have been described. Hoya chowutiensis from the South Sulawesi, and also I also describe Hoya sumatrana. It's come from southern part of Sumatra. And one more species from Central Kalimantan, Hoya sanguinensis. I named after the location.
Now, Sri's taking me to see the medicinal plant collection.
quite far from here, but still in the garden.
This part of the garden has around 200 plants, long used as traditional medicine. I recognise some of them, things like pepper and turmeric, but others are new to me, including some that are being studied for their potential to cure serious illness.
We can do research here for domestication and to investigate what is the properties like medicines. Hoya also can be extract for cosmetics. So many kinds of our needs, yeah.
There's even a specimen that Professor Sri collected herself about 15 years ago, a medicine plant with a fairly strong local reputation in South Sulawesi.
This is Lunacia amara. This species has been used as aphrodisiac for men, and people there produce the powder from the bark of the species and sell it as drug, yeah, for men.
Yeah,
yeah.
Of all of Indonesia's many plant species, Professor Sri says that only 20% are currently understood and used, leaving 80% left to explore. So this work that you're doing, the research and then the conservation work, how important is it?
I think it's very important because if we ignore the conservation aspect, we will lose our biodiversity. Now we're facing so many threats: deforestation, habitat degradation, and climate change. So many beautiful plants not yet domesticated as ornamental here. So we have to domesticate it before it is extinct in the wild. So this is a very huge task, I think, maybe generation to generation. So I would like to call to our youngest generation to take attention to our big biodiversity, and let's explore the potential use and how to use it wisely.
Let's catch up with Sean now, who's checking out a new collection of some of the most unique plants on the planet.
There are certain plants that always capture people's imagination because they're beautiful, unusual, and in some cases, lethal. I'm escaping a sudden downpour and heading into a beautiful glasshouse full of carnivores. Some carnivorous plants, like the Venus flytrap, actively trap their prey. But most of the plants in this house use passive traps. Nepenthes and Sarracenia are also known as pitcher plants because they have large modified leaves in the shape of a jug or pitcher, which they use to capture and digest insects and the occasional mammal.
They use their attractive colors to attract insect or prey because sometimes it's like a rotten meat. And then they also emit a distinctive fragrance from their nectar glands, also to attract insects to their traps.
Michael Yudhistira is the manager of horticulture across all 4 of Indonesia's botanic gardens. He's been obsessed with carnivorous plants since he was a little boy. So this newly built display is one of his favorite projects.
So what drew you to the pitcher plant?
The first thing, I spent my childhood always alone in my house since both of my parents are working. But they always provide me with a lot of encyclopedia about flora and fauna. And during my childhood, I read a lot about these carnivorous plants. Since then, my passion for them grows very drastically. And the more I go, the more I love them. They are very interesting plants.
Indonesia is a Nepenthes hotspot, with more species found here than anywhere else in the world.
What is the size range of the pitchers?
The smallest one is below 5 centimeters, but one of the largest can be exceeding 40 centimeters, like Nepenthes truncata or Raja. Sometimes they also trap small rodents like squirrel or rats. After 2 or 3 weeks, usually only their hair and bones left inside the pitchers, and it's very stinky.
Wow, that's terrifying. Ooh, this one looks sinister.
This one is famous as the Draculas of Nepenthes because it has 2 fangs that produce specialized nectar, and they also have a abusive relationship with a specific ants.
Wow.
But sometimes it's also a symbiosis because, as you can see, the tendril is very thick, so some of the ants make a shelter inside the tendrils. So the ants are very attracted to the nectar in the fangs. The ants usually climb the pitchers using these wings as a ladder, and they go into the fangs, and they fall into the pitchers. So it's kind of a very complicated relationship, right?
Oh yeah.
Mas Yudis, ini kan nepenya udah beberapa udah ada yang banyak tinggi. Apa perlu kita lakukan propagasi ya?
Boleh sih, apalagi yang kayak ini, itu sama ini lumayan sih nanti di cutting.
Michael and his team are on an urgent mission to help people better understand and appreciate these fascinating plants. New species are still being discovered in remote places, but many more are threatened as their habitat shrinks.
What a beautiful curation of rare and important species here. What is your long-term goal for having a display like this?
Of course, our long-term goal is to increase awareness and curiosity for the people and kids. And since a lot of them are already rare or threatened, we are planning to reintroduce them back in the wild.
Awesome.
Orchids are one of the largest plant families in the world, and a massive 5,000 species can be found across the islands of Indonesia.
And I personally am fascinated by them. There are local indigenous orchids growing wild in the gardens, like this bamboo orchid. This species has no leaves and no way to photosynthesize, so it relies on a relationship with other species like fungi to survive. Having a wild orchid pop up in the garden is the highest form of compliment.
In the protection of 2 large indoor orchid houses is a collection of orchids that would make any enthusiast's jaw drop.
One of the rooms is dedicated to hybrid orchids.
It's full of specimens that have been produced by plant breeders all over the world by carefully selecting traits to create new hybrids.
These designer orchids are incredible. They're bred to be more prolific and long-lasting. Like, check this one out.
There are hundreds of Phalaenopsis or moth orchids in here, which is a genus you probably recognise as the quintessential indoor plant. Some species of Phalaenopsis are native to Indonesia, but the ones that you see sold in supermarkets, on display in bathrooms and hotel lobbies, they're all hybrids.
And it's no wonder they're so popular. The big, showy, colourful flowers are pretty impressive.
The second room holds a huge collection of naturally occurring orchid species.
Many species in here are types of Dendrobium. They're epiphytic, which means in the wild they grow on other plants without harming them.
They absorb their water and nutrients from the rain, air, and other debris that collects nearby. Some of the plants are displayed in naturalistic environments. Others are in pots, growing on large chunks of charcoal. Orchids are under huge threat in Indonesia through exploitation, but also from habitat loss and climate change. A large role of this botanical garden, and botanical gardens all over the world, is the long-term conservation of threatened species. This room full of bubbling jars and bottled baby plants is the garden's tissue culture lab. It's managed by plant conservation specialist Dr. Surya Dientina. Here, she and other researchers are working to preserve plant genetics into the future.
What is tissue culture?
Oh, tissue culture is when you plant seeds or organs or cells on the agar in a sterile condition. So we have the light and then the environment and everything is under control. And then they grow because we put the vitamin, nutrient, so they can grow well, like just like outside.
The controlled conditions make for great seed germination rates.
Compared to the nature, we get more successful percentage. In nature, they only can germinate about 1%. Yeah, so it's very low compared with the tissue culture.
It varies between species, but here in the lab, some species have a huge 90% success rate.
And I understand that you've also been experimenting with seed storage.
Yeah, so usually, conventionally, we conserve the seeds under -20 degrees Celsius, but then there's a limitation with the -20 because some seeds, they can survive like for 10 years or more, but some other seeds, they can't store even for 1 year. So we try cryopreservation in the liquid nitrogen, so it's -196 degrees Celsius.
That is cold.
Yeah, very cold. So you have to freeze and then you sleep and then, yeah, and then we can rethaw them, bring them back to grow. Hopefully this can be a backup for conservation in nature. For example, this one is cryopreserved and non-cryopreserved seeds. This one is Dendrobium capra. Dendrobium capra is one of endangered species from Indonesia. And you can see here, there's no difference between the cryopreserved and non-cryopreserved. So we can say there's no damage with the cryopreserved.
So do you think this is the future of conservation?
With the cryopreservation, hopefully we can still conserve the plants 100 years from now for our future generation.
We all know the joy that our gardens bring us, and that's because we're all deeply connected to nature. But like so many places, natural areas here are under pressure. Climate change, invasive species, and competition for resources mean that our most vulnerable species need our support.
I grew up in Java. It's not much forest left in Java. But when I decide to move to Sumatra for conservation, I can feel like it's the best place for me to live. After I open my doors, I can see a lot of things very interesting in Sumatra.
Punki Nanda Pratama is dedicating his life to conserving what's left of Sumatra's rainforests.
It's white-handed gibbons, not Siamese gibbon. White-handed gibbon, more rare.
And like so many of us, his energy comes from spending time in wild places.
Very special moment for us. Hearing them kind of like the luckiest thing I've ever had.
So cool. They are monogamous and always stay in a couple till they dies, which is super romantic. And yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get the clear shot of them.
In an attempt to demonstrate just how many endangered and elusive species live in these rainforests, Punki and some friends started a camera trap project. they've captured some incredible footage.
It's kind of like a new information for us to know about the biodiversity inside of the jungle.
Indonesia's iconic wildlife relies on the health of these tropical rainforests.
Look at that one, they have little babies on it. This meteorite leaf monkey is endangered species in South Sumatra. They only eat the young leaf of the trees, and we're really lucky to see them right now. Long time ago, this area is a pristine forest. It's supposed to be protected, but you can see around it's like open, like you can see a lot of light. It's kind of like a sign of like a destruction starting in this area illegally for coffee plantations. That's threatened the flora and fauna in this area.
These small plantations within protected areas create subtle but continual habitat loss. And in some places, it's not subtle at all. Much of the world's supply of palm oil and rubber is grown in this region. Punky is collaborating with a local government conservation agency on a project to rescue flora from cleared land, like this old rubber plantation.
Ya, permasalahan konservasi di Sumatera Selatan itu adalah kehilangan habitat baik flora maupun fauna karena adanya alih fungsi penggunaan lahan. Selain itu juga adanya ancaman dari perburuan liar untuk flora maupun fauna itu sendiri.
Itu mas, bulbul itu mas.
Iya, bulbul mas.
Ambil.
Ambil deh. This is the area that we always like looking for because we know some of orchids like growing in the rubber plant.
Kepunahan flora itu sudah di depan mata. Sehingga kalau kita tidak segera bergerak bersama, ya kita, anak cucu kita tidak akan pernah bisa melihat flora itu lagi.
Rescued flora is then transferred into a large purpose-built greenhouse to be rehabilitated and propagated.
Roughly, we have about 5,000 specimens, including Hoyas, Arrowheads, and Fern and Nepenthes. All of them is native species from Sumatra. This one is Myrmecodia tuberosa, is ant plants and very famous right now as ornamental plants. And we found this on the ground, and you can see a lot of damage on the leaves. This is an orchid called Celogenus waniana. It's 6 months since we rescued from the destroyed land. It's been growing so well in our greenhouse. This orchid is called Paphiopedilum primulinum. It's endemic from Sumatra. This is critically endangered and protected by law internationally, and also like highly poached by the orchid hunter. I'm very happy we have this specimen in our greenhouse, and hopefully in the future we will like working with these orchids in a tissue culture, and we will like bring them back to the wild.
As the world has fallen in love with tropical plants, Punky has seen the illegal plant trade soar.
People from another country trying to want more exotic plants, and that's make the population of plants like this plummeting down, and Sumatra is like highly damaged by that.
To empower communities living on the front line of habitat destruction, Punky has yet another project underway.
I like a single father with 1,000 kids. I have education programs, and it's focusing in the area that have a highly damaging of illegal logging and also wildlife conflict.
Punky teaches in 9 different schools, with some villages a 6-hour walk from the closest road.
It's really important to tell the clear information to the children, because when I'm talking with children, they will like absorb as much as possible the information and passing out to their parents. And that's why it's kind of like homemade educator. People sometimes like thinking conservation kind of like a project in a year or 2 years or 5 years, but conservation kind of like lifetime work. You need to get into the community to understand what they need. People need help economically, and people will like do everything to support their family. As a conservationist, we need to think about that, not just blaming community, like shoot the animal or even like take the orchids or whatever. Being a conservationist, we need to be flexible with everything that's happening around. Because conservation is like a collective work for everyone. As a human, we are a part of our ecosystem. And one of its species like disappear, human will disappear too. As long as people like us trying to share more about nature, share more about the loves, it will be like, hopeful. And I believe that people, time by time, will understand how important nature for us, because, nature not depend on people, but people depend on nature. That's the important things people to know and to understand.
Sean, we can't thank you enough for sharing your passion and some of your plant friends with us, but I feel like we've barely scratched the surface.
I feel like what we've seen has just been a tiny drop in the ocean. There's definitely more to see, right?
You're right. There's so much more to see. It's been such a lovely journey. Thank you guys so much.
Oh, what a treat. But sadly, that's it from us here in Indonesia. But you'll find jobs for the weekend on our website, and you'll find us back on home soil next week. We'll see you then.
I'm meeting a couple who have literally travelled the world to find each other and are growing a beautiful, productive and delicious life here in central Victoria.
One of the keys to having a productive garden is protecting them from strong winds. And I'm going to show you how to do that with shrubby windbreaks.
And I'm going to show you an unexpected source of garden greens, tree leaves.